Growing up as a leftist, I, and probably the other leftists I knew, all thought right-wing politicians were all too easily manipulating a good portion of their voters. They could easily use fear to get people to not only vote for them, but to completely distrust the other party, as if the other party would open Pandora's box if they ever got voted in. They would scare you about foreign invaders and promise to protect the borders, keeping the country safe from whoever was the latest enemy of the day: terrorists, communists, and other social and political extremists. But this didn't mean the politicians shared the same fears as their voters. Some Western politicians would focus on keeping the illegal immigrants out, most likely to placate those citizens they saw as being xenophobic, while bringing in 10 times as many legal immigrants from similar countries, unbeknownst to the simple voter. If promising to protect their citizens from unwanted outsiders was not enough, they could shift their focus to the outcasts in society: drug addicts, the unemployed, the social welfare mothers. They would either promise to rein them in so they wouldn't be such a burden on society, or they could point at them as the cause of so many of society's ills to distract the people away from the government's own failings. We on the left would deride and ridicule the unquestioning grunts and peons that would only vote because they were convinced by a narrative. We would look down on them because they voted not just out of fear, but because they were completely lazy. We thought they were so stupid. We couldn't imagine a group of people that was so easy to brainwash. Just tell them what they want to hear and what they should fear the most. And that's it. Well, unfortunately, this problem doesn't just affect 40 or even 50% of the people. It's perhaps much closer to 80 or 85%. And if we're lucky, it's not actually any higher. We naively thought that all the ignorant people in the West would eventually die off and be replaced by well-informed individuals that had so much information at their fingertips. This clearly isn't the case. People are still swayed by their emotions. People still stay in their echo chambers. People can't get out of the left-wing, right-wing dichotomy. They're as black and white as a zebra and barely as intelligent. Even though it's become easy to convince someone on the left to vote for you, you can't just rely on saying the right thing. Saying that climate change is the most important issue in the world is not enough. Saying that you support gay marriage is not enough. Even saying that a transgender woman is a real woman is not enough. Of course, you still need to say all of these things, but what's more important is painting your opponent as the complete opposite. You need to make people fear your opponent, as if they were some kind of monster. Fear and mudslinging is what the general population understand, and the left are no way immune to this. Convincing people of your virtue isn't enough, because it doesn't really stir people's most basic emotions. You need to awaken their fear. You just can't say that you're on the side of good. You need to point out that your opponent is completely on the side of evil. So when you say diversity is our strength, you also need to point out that your opponent is a bigot. And it wouldn't matter if you're actually bigoted against a particular group or not. You just need to focus on how your opponent hates people of color, how they don't respect indigenous cultures, how they're biased against a particular gender or sexual persuasion, and obviously how they despise refugees and treat them like dirt. You need to repeat these things as often and as loud as possible. This can drown out any calm counter-argument, at least for the very emotional people amongst us, and there are more than a few. The right used to have countless buzzwords, and now so do the left. We used to hear that the left can't protect us from communists, terrorists, and drugs. The left can now say that the right hate the environment, trans people, gay people, renewable energy, immigrants, poor people, and so on. Most of these politicians don't believe in half the things they're saying, much like the best salespeople, but that doesn't matter. As long as their customers, as long as their voters, are buying what they're selling. Most people, whether they're on the right or the left, won't thoroughly research someone's claims. They'll just jump on the bandwagon with their finger pointing. If you're not quick to point the finger and label someone, then your tribe might shift their finger onto you. Even asking people to be thorough, To be sure of what they're going along with is actually right will be seen as a sign of disloyalty and even an attempt to protect your opponent. These type of people are too easy to convince. You just need to tell them what they want to hear and they'll swallow it like Coca-Cola. These people are definitely not wolves in sheep's clothing. They're sheep in human clothing. We used to think that only the right were guilty of this, but the left have definitely proved how wrong we were. If you encounter someone that's so gullible that they believe anything their political side says, whether they're on the left or the right, then you need to challenge them. Don't let it go. Don't just be polite. This kind of passive behavior is not going to help society or those individuals. If the topic of personal insecurity and its influence on the regression of the West is of interest to you, then there's a link below this video to my book addressing this issue. See you next time.